In today's show, the Blazers lose to the Suns in the preseason, but there's some valuable learning moments for Scoot Henderson and the young Trailblazers. Plus, Chauncey Billups shares his approach to how he's coaching the youth. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen. Coming at you every single weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we're going to talk about the Blazers' loss to the Phoenix Suns in preseason. Blazers played their first game against an NBA team during the exhibition run, and they lose to a darn good Suns team. Some lessons to be learned for Scoot Henderson in this one and Shaedon Sharpe as well. So I'm going to share some thoughts on the Blazers playing with pace and tempo, a thing that has been emphasized throughout, and they kind of did it in stretches here and there in this game. And then I want to close the show talking about Chauncey Billups and the way he is approaching coaching a young roster. It's very different than coaching the veteran groups he's had the last 2 years. And prior to the game in pregame media, he shared some really interesting tidbits on how his approach has changed, how he has to just do things different with this group. And I think it sheds light onto sort of where the Blazers are and where they want to go. Let's start doing what we do, though. Here's your fastest recap in the West. Blazers lose 122-111. They were up 40-37 after one. This was a fun first quarter, and the Blazers got 13 from Malcolm Brogdon, who came off the bench. He was 5 for 5 to start this game, and the Blazers had a big lead, but they couldn't hold up with the Suns' firepower. Phoenix outscores Portland 39-15 in the second quarter, a 24-point swing. They take a 76-55 lead into the break. Suns did not play their starters in the second half. Their big names in the second half. The Blazers did for at least a little bit, and they trimmed the lead to 91-88 after 3, but Suns pulled away in the fourth quarter. They win 122-111. That's your fastest recap in the West. Exhibition season, limited box score. If you know, you know. This one, no Rob Williams in this one, and the Blazers changed up their starting lineup. Scoot Henderson, Anthony Simons, Shaedon Sharpe, your starting small forward, along with Jeremy Grant and DeAndre Ayton. Rob Williams was supposed to play in this game, but Chauncey Billups said pregame that he had a pretty nasty collision knee-to-knee with Jeremy Grant in practice, and he needed to miss. He had to miss this one too, unfortunately. I'm no conspiracy here, but I think it would be good for everyone who is interested in seeing Rob Williams play to go ahead and see it. The more that he just misses and needs time to ramp up, it's just there's I don't know, quiet anxiety building. Let's let a dude who's had some health problems. Seeing him play and seeing him play well would, I think, help anyone who's having any concerns. But Billups didn't sound super concerned there. But Chauncey he's good at not sounding concerned sometimes. So hard to read on it. But hopefully he will play when the Blazers play on Saturday evening in their next preseason game, also against these Phoenix Suns. Oh, just kidding. They play the Suns on Monday. Utah first. In any case, this one was fun early in part because the Blazers played faster. They had talked about so much during media day that this fast. And then they played the New Zealand Breakers in the second game, or in the opening game of the preseason, and they don't get into stuff. They don't play with pace. They don't play with tempo. And Billups mentioned pregame that he that was just something they're going to have to get better at. That, when teams press, you got to move the ball ahead, you got to grab and go, and everyone can go. You don't have to wait for Scoot Henderson. Anyone who's not DeAndre Ayton is allowed to just grab it and push because they want to get out in transition and run stuff. They want to get out and go. It's a big point of emphasis. And in that first quarter, when they scored 40 points and they looked darn good, they ran. So what I did, sitting on press rows, really fun to be back in the building, saw some familiar faces, and I enjoy watching NBA games live and in person, so it's fun to be back. But what I did sitting on press row was I charted every possession in the first half in which the Blazers got into an action with 18 on the clock. So you get across half court, that 20 or 21 second mark, and then you immediately get into something. This is inexact. It's like get into an action is very subjective from where I'm sitting on press row. But for me, that was the screen is coming up and you actively use the screen, or you a cut is made and you throw the pass off to that cutter, that someone like filling into space or moving, relocating to get the play going, get defenses moving side to side, just get actions going. The Blazers they weren't running like a ton of elaborate sets, but they were made a concerted effort to play faster in this game. And I'm only charting possessions where they go across midcourt. So coming out of timeouts in half-court sets or off offensive rebounds, I didn't mark those. I'm talking ones where either the ball goes in or they get a rebound or a turnover and run the other way. Suns didn't really turn the ball over in the first half, so it was rebounds and made shots. And the Suns shot the freaking lights out in the second quarter. Chauncey Billups said it kind of sapped his team of a little bit of energy. I mean, they're really good. Bradley Beal did not play in this game. Oh, before I get into the charting, let me say this. This is I think an important note that I missed. This was the return for Jusuf Nurkic and Nazir Little back. It's different because it's a preseason game, but the first game back after a very, very fresh trade. DeAndre Ayton was asked about this by Blazers media, and he was very weird about it and didn't want to talk about the Suns. Jusuf Nurkic and Nazir Little both spoke with media members at shoot around this morning, and were candid about their that it's good. It's weird and strange to be back, and their appreciation for the city, but also just like the strange business of being traded and having things move very quickly right before the season starts. Both Nazir Little and Jusuf Nurkic started because Brad Beal didn't play. And I don't know if Vogel did that on purpose or he just wanted to play Naz. Like, he played him 30 minutes, so maybe he just wanted to see what Naz can do and wanted to play him a bunch in this game. But it gave Blazer fans a moment when they were both introduced, and Mark Mason, the Blazers PA, public address announcer, said that introduced them back to back. So Nurk got a big shout out and then touched his chest and gave a big wave, touched his heart and gave a big wave. And then Naz got introduced right after him. So it gave Blazer fans in the arena a chance to show their appreciation, show their thanks for two guys who played several seasons here and now are moving on. It's Nas 4 years, Nurk 7. It's a long time. It's a long time to, there were 6 for Nurk. He came over in 2017. It's it's a long stretch to have familiar faces around, and you move so quickly in the league. I thought that was a really nice touch. And for his troubles, Nurk had a monster first half. 17, 8, and 5 in 21 first half minutes for Jusuf Nurkic. He was really good. To go with a couple steals and 2 blocks, that's 17, 8, and 5 assists. Nurk, monster night in his homecoming. Naz, not nearly as good, but the Suns got big games, so it didn't matter. Okay, I mentioned I charted tempo. Talk about that in the second segment. Plus talk about Scoot Henderson and the lessons for Scoot as he adjusts to sort of the NBA game and this specific roster with the Blazers. Pace ties into the way Scoot wants to play. So I'll tell you about my charting in the second segment. First, though, let me tell you about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook, and with the NFL season rolling along, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. Because if you're a new customer, you can get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. So go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Make one $5 bet on an NFL game. Then no matter what, you get $200, and then you can play around, kind of, if you're a new customer, get familiar with how FanDuel works, have some fun with like free money to play with. So if you think about joining FanDuel, no better time to get on the action. Bet on things like spreads, player props, over-unders. The app is easy to use. When you win, they got safe and fast withdrawals to get your money quickly. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and kick off the NFL season. That's FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right. So I teased this in the first half, or the first segment rather. I charted every full court possession the Blazers had in the first half to take stock of how many times they got into their action with 18 or more on the shot clock. The reason I did this is because I think this is a team that wants to play fast. I also think this is a team that's going to struggle a little bit in the half court. So getting into stuff quickly and giving yourself more options and getting into, making teams guard you for longer and being, showing them multiple challenging looks, or at least multiple looks, switching sides of the floor and all that. You need the full shot clock to get into it. Also, just like utilizing your athletes, like play fast because you're starting a game with Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons, and Scoot Henderson. I charted every possession of the first half. That was just when the Suns regulars were out there. It felt like it's just a very different feel in the second half of a preseason game. But here's what I got. In the first quarter, the Blazers got into their sets on 15 of 21 opportunities with 18 on the shot clock. 15 out of 21 chances. Pretty hilariously, one of the times that they did not, they ran a really nice play that ended in a DeAndre Ayton dunk. Another one was right when Malcolm Brogdon checked in the game, and he just wasn't playing with the pace that the beginning of the first unit was. And then there was another one where they didn't get into it, and Brogdon had an and one. So it's not a perfect measurement, but they played faster. They made a concerted effort to play faster. 15 of their 21 possessions, their full court possessions in the first quarter ended with, or began rather, with 18 on the shot clock or more on the shot clock. It's good. It's good stuff. Fast break points won't show you that because they didn't get a chance to run because the Suns were scoring 37 points and not turning the ball over. So there just weren't a ton of opportunities to push. Two true pushes off of opportunities in that first quarter, but they played with pace. And I asked Chauncey Billups about that after the game, and he said, in that first quarter, we were moving the ball and playing with pace, and our tempo was good, our pace was good, but we just stopped moving the ball in the second quarter. And stop moving the ball also was a reduction in the number of opportunities they really pushed. According to my charting, 13 of their 22 possessions, full court possessions in the second quarter, started with 18 or more on the shot clock. So getting into, 6 seconds to get across half court and get into stuff. 13 of 22 possessions in the second quarter. A little bit worse. They shot terribly. They scored 15 points, shot 30% in the second quarter. It was 6 of 30 from the field. It was brutal. A limited box score. I can't help it. I wrote this down. I'll have to read the box score a little bit. But they just weren't. Some of it was that the Suns were scoring on every trip down the floor, and it's just hard to run every trip down the floor. And Billups mentioned that it was maybe a little bit deflating as well, and they just stopped moving the ball. So you move the ball, you play with better pace. So he's not even talking about getting into stuff quickly like I am. He's talking about in the middle of the possession, continue to move the ball so you're harder to guard. Keep that tempo up. So when the first option doesn't happen, keep that movement going, keep player movement, ball movement, all those things. Billups is talking about tempo for the full 24-second possession when he's talking about tempo there. The second quarter, though, while they didn't play super fast, it didn't include probably my favorite play in terms of tempo in the entire game. Early in the second quarter, they push off a rebound, and DeAndre Ayton sprints the floor, gets into the paint, and seals, and Anthony Simons hits it into him in the paint. He's got 2 feet in the paint, standing in the middle of the lane, catches it 2 feet in the paint, middle of the lane, but they've run, right? He's catching it with 19 on the shot clock. Super early hit ahead. You'll see the Lakers do this better than any team in the league. Get into the paint, seal, get a touch with 2 feet in the paint. It's troubling to defenses. Defense collapse. Ayton just kicks it right back out to Anthony Simons. He gets a warm-up jumper. He gets a straight practice catch and shoot 3 with his hips squared to the rim at the top of the key. Cash. Easy money. When you run, good things happen. That was probably my favorite play of the whole half in terms of just like tempo leading to good quality stuff. One of the reasons the Blazers want to play with tempo is because Scoot Henderson is on the team. And in a big part of like what I'm watching this preseason is how Scoot adapts. Obviously, it's like there's no real rush. Like you want him to be good, and he shows some moments here and there. I thought a game against the New Zealand Breakers, a big part of his success was just he was matched up against someone who he had a significant physical advantage against. So I was excited to see him play against NBA caliber athletes against Phoenix. Like it wasn't that he was bad against the Breakers. He had a couple really nice plays. It's just like it's different. It's just different when you have like when Scoot yet again, he's played a lot of games probably where he's had a physical advantage and recently and in his because he's jacked and fast, but like he's playing like a smaller point guard who plays in the NBL. Like it's just not it ain't NBA basketball. It's not NBA caliber athletes. I was excited to see Scoot in this one, and early I didn't think he was that great. I didn't think he was that great, and Chauncey Billups made a point to bring him back in the fourth quarter, and he looked much better in the fourth quarter. There are moments when Scoot, playing fast, can use his acceleration to get into the paint. He finishes well with good touch off the glass. He had one where he pushed in transition, got his defender back on his heels, and took a little mid-range jumper. He also kind of forced some shots, particularly I think in the half court, sometimes driving into the teeth and taking harder shots than he needs to. He wasn't bad in this game. I just thought in the first half he was not. There weren't like these wow moments. Just like, oh, woo, this dude's going to be special. It's just like he looked like someone trying to figure out where the pieces fit. Trying to figure out where it works. And some of that is Scoot playing off the ball. The Blazers roster is such that Scoots can't avoid spending time off the ball. Malcolm Brogdon's on the roster. Anfernee Simon's on the roster. You want those guys to have chances to run pick and rolls, right? You want them to also have a chance to operate and have the ball in their hands and be creators, even if they're not running like high screen game. Just like have the ball and go to work a little bit. Brogdon can really shoot it. He's got craft and strength in the paint. Like he's you want him to touch the ball. Every time he's just a freaking great offensive player. You want him to be on the ball to be a great offensive player. It's what he does best. Give him have him score in the league. That's where Ant is gonna provide you the most value, right? Being a really good offensive player. That means there's going to be a lot of time when Scoot is playing off the ball. Some people are going to want to call this shooting guard or whatever. I don't know. He's just off ball, on ball. I think the positions in this situation are maybe less meaningful to me than the role. And when he's off the ball, Scoot didn't exactly have a feel for it in this game. It wasn't that he was bad. It was just you could tell he was trying to figure it out. When he came back in the fourth quarter, admittedly against way worse competition. It's not Eric Gordon and Devin Booker out there. Two really strong guards. He's playing against Saban Lee. It's a different caliber of competition. But he was playing off the ball a little bit in that too. Like they moved him off the ball a little bit in the fourth quarter too to let him like clearly get some reps at it. And he attacked off the catch way better, got himself into the paint way better. It's that quick attack off the catch. I don't think he's going to be this like elite catch and shoot guy. He didn't shoot poorly from three, 2 of 5 from three. He finished with 22 on 8 of 14 shooting. Scoot wasn't bad in this game. It's just you saw him, if you watched him, like he was like, overall, like taken as a whole, he's probably good in this game, right? But you could see him learning lessons, right? Figuring out where he fits in the offense, how they're going to do things, what shots are better shots for him, what shots, are harder looks for him. I think I really liked in the fourth quarter getting him off the ball, even when he was, playing Skylar Mays or where Shaedon Sharpe was running it, running the initial action, like getting him off the ball so he could attack. And he did a much better job of attacking off the catch. The days of that you've probably, if you're of a certain age, like of triple threat, catching and getting into triple threat are gone. You have to explode as you catch it. So you need to move into the ball and catch it on the move, or there's like a scout term for it, but where you kind of catch it and throw it ahead of you as to dribble and like attack into space off the catch. Scoot can do that. That's a way he can thwart being maybe not this elite catch and shoot guy. I think he can be a good shooter eventually, but he might not. He might develop that over the coming months or year. So like for now, attacking off the catch and using his athleticism is hugely important. And Chauncey Billups talked about this, right? He needs to play the same way he would play on the ball or off the ball. That's kind of coach speak, but what it reads at is like you can't be less aggressive and be a shooter if you're off the ball. The thing Scoot Henderson does better than anyone else is maybe the thing he's best at. He's certainly the best at on the team is he can get into the paint off the dribble. So play the same way you do when you're off the ball. That means quick, decisive actions off the catch, get into the paint and make plays, either for yourself or others. Play the same way, which means play to your strengths, regardless if you're the initial creator or the off-ball guy. And I think Scoot, he didn't do great. He didn't do super well on that today, but he's going to have to play that role because that's just the nature of the roster as it stands right now. And so getting him reps to do that is just how it's going to work. I like that Billups played both him and Shaedon Sharpe at the end or in the fourth quarter, brought them back when the rest of the bench or rest of the starters did not come back in. He said, they're 19 and 20 years old. They have to play. And while he was maybe not as, it wasn't as big of a deal against the Breakers, like playing against NBA competition out there, right? Like if there's NBA, if it's Keon Johnson and Saban Lee and Yuta Watanabe and Udoka Azubuike, and Chimezi Metu, those are end of the bench NBA guys, but they're NBA guys, and they want Scoot out there playing against NBA caliber athletes, NBA caliber competition, getting reps. They want Shaedon out there doing the same thing. I like starting Shaedon in this game because it's like, oh yeah, let's figure out what it looks like when he has to guard like high level players, right? I think if the Blazers were trying to win, you put Matisse Thybulle in there because he's the best defensive player, and you're playing against Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. But I kind of liked the approach, right? I like the approach, and sink or swim because it's the preseason. Let's see what it is. It's maybe not the most aggressive winning strategy, but I like the strategy. Speaking of approach, speaking of youngsters, pregame Chauncey Billups gave really interesting insight into what it's like to coach a very young team. He used the word tedious, but he says he loves teaching. Let's talk about why both of those things are true of how Billups is approaching this young roster. Join me in the third segment, won't you? Still a pass versus point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You're still listening to Locked On Blazers. Chauncey Billups talked pregame about how it is different coaching this team than it has been in the previous iterations. They're just a really young group. They've got 6 first or second year players on the roster. Even the vets, Anthony Simons is young. I mean, he's seasoned or whatever, but even the newer vets, DeAndre Ayton and Rob Williams are 26. Malcolm Brogdon's brand new. Jeremy Grant's spending his second season with Billups. This is not exactly like a great deal of continuity as we've discussed. So he talks about how a lot of it is just teaching the very basics, not just saying, here's what I want you to do, go do it, but here's what I want you to do. Do you understand it? Watch them play a little bit and watch them run stuff and say, okay, you don't get it. Let me explain it even more clearer. And he said that some older rosters wouldn't take to that as well because they would find it annoying or insulting or just unnecessary. But with a young group, it feels necessary. And he thinks that the veterans can have some, on the roster can find some value in it as well. He's also said more so than in past preseasons, past sort of ramp ups, training camp and into the exhibition season, is that he is just scrimmaging more because he wants to install something. Okay, here's what we want to do, and then just go do it at full speed, go do it live, play 5-on-5 and go play. But he is, instead of having a scrimmage that would go 10 minutes. In the past, you put 10 on the clock and you play for 10 minutes. It might not get to 10 minutes because he's said there's just more and more to clean up. Blow your whistle, hey, that we're not doing this right. and go in there and say, okay, so you're playing for much shorter stretches, but you're playing a lot more, as opposed to drills and shooting work and then maybe position groups working on certain actions. It's like, let's play, let's work on offense, let's work on our defense and our defensive calls, and if we screw up, blow the whistle, call it dead, and immediately clean up the mistakes. And he says he's doing a lot more cleaning up. A lot more cleaning up than he has in the past, because it's just a brand new group. They're new to everything. They're new to him. They're new to the NBA. They're new to each other. Like, he mentioned that it's a different feel than it has been in the past. But I asked him if he has enjoyed the teaching part. And he says, yeah, like part of him is just like, he thinks like the essence of coaching is teaching, like as a coach, you really are a teacher. So like part of it is like having to teach. Here's how we do it. Here's what we want to do. Here's the language we use, is like fulfilling in some way, right? But he also mentioned that it's a little tedious. It's just a lot of saying, no, okay, sorry, I didn't explain that fully. You need the full explanation. You need the bare bones, like starting from the true foundation and to build up. So he mentioned it's a little tedious. And one of the things he mentioned that I think is interesting is that coaching a young team and having to teach so much means that sometimes in practices you feel like you're behind. You feel like you're not getting through all the things you want to get through. And he mentioned that he earlier this week they were running a drill, and on his coaches have typically plan out practice by minutes, right? And you'll see them if you've ever been in an NBA gym, which some of you have for practice. I'm sure some of you listening have. But like coaches will have like a full printout, right? They'll hold a piece of paper and then they'll have their practice schedule like run out. Here's all the things we want to work on, right? And Billups says, he'll allot 8 minutes in his practice plan for a 90-minute practice, 8 minutes in his practice plan for a drill. And he says they ran through it for 8 minutes, and he said, we don't have it. Like, we're just going to keep doing this. We just have to keep doing this. And he joked that it's like, there's some stuff that you're not going to get to in those situations because you can't have guys in the gym forever. And I asked him if he just want to run 3-hour practices like the old school NBA coaches. And he said at training camp, they did run some 3-hour practices, and we'd get to the end of it and he would think to himself, man, I wish we had 3.5 hours for this, because there's just more to do. It feels like he feels like he's really, really having to teach this group. And that shouldn't be a surprise, because he's playing even in a entertaining top 8 for the Blazers, right? With Scoot and Ant and Matisse Thybulle and Jeremy Grant, and DeAndre Ayton and Rob Williams when he's back, and Shane Sharp and Malcolm Brogdon and Jabari Walker. You're talking, Jabari Walker's 21 as a second-year player. Shane Sharp's 20. Scoot is 19. Even in an entertaining top 8, real youngsters. And then, like, the veterans, like I said, are new veterans. I think Billups sort of getting one of the things that he mentioned, I've covered Billups all of his seasons, and I remember asking him about in year 1 or in year 2 about year 1, he said, like, one of the hardest parts about being a new coach is you don't know what you don't know. And I wrote a story on this, or I did a podcast on this, and asked a bunch of other coaches about their first year in the league and what they were trying to figure out, like the hardest part of like figuring out new stuff. And Steve Kerr mentioned that it's just time. You do not have enough time. You always have less time than you think. And I think with Billups getting back to like really having to teach this group, he's starting to feel that pressure, right? He knows what he doesn't know. He's aware of all of the sort of things now. He's not blissfully ignorant to always running out of time. He's feeling that in year 3, the sort of crunch of like, we need to install more, as opposed to being a first year coach not knowing what you need to install. He's done this a couple of times. He's like, we need more stuff. Like, there's more to do. And I think that approach of being a teacher and being tedious and being really specific and making sure everybody gets it and knows it and truly knows it is how you have to approach this young team. I think Chauncey is really realistic when he's talking about the Suns. In post game, he said, like, we can't measure ourselves against the Suns. can't measure ourselves against the Suns because that's a team that's competing for a championship. And we're not that. And we can't measure ourselves against that. It's not the way to do it. We have to worry about what we're doing, because saying like, oh, hey, we didn't score 76 points in the first half like Phoenix did or whatever it is, like they got to worry about their house. And I think Billups getting back to the essence of teaching is the way you kind of have to be patient. You have to know that, hey, there's going to be bumps and bruises along the way. Heck, we might be behind when the season starts, but you got to take the patient approach, because the Blazers are building something. They're not there yet, and they're playing a bunch of youngsters. And I think that's just, that's the truth of it. Okay. A couple passing thoughts, but as we close up for the weekend. Blazers are going to play a game on Saturday night. Monday show usually shows up in your feed Sunday after I record it. And so we'll have thoughts on the Blazers preseason game in that one. Look for it in your feed on Sunday afternoon. But what I was, two things. One, I think Billups' approach and commitment to teaching shows up so much in Scoot and Shaedon Sharpe, because they're going to play a bunch with the regulars and they're going to be relied on to grow and be the thing that comes next. I thought Shaedon Sharpe didn't look like he knew where to get his offense in the first half, and then looks more comfortable against lower level competition. I thought Scoot Henderson didn't know how to attack in the varying roles. On the ball, he looks comfortable. Off the ball, he looks less comfortable, and that's more pronounced sometimes than others. And Billups said both of them need to get back in there and play in the fourth quarter. That's the essence of sort of what he wants to do. He wants them to play fast and play fast through the whole possession, play with tempo through the whole possession. When they did that in the first quarter, they looked better. And he wants them to learn from some mistakes and get reps, because he knows that they just don't have enough time for the level of learning they still need to do. So he's putting his young guys back out there. This game was not this like special, meaningful game for the Blazers. They got whacked in an exhibition game by a team that's way better than them. But I think you're starting to see what the building blocks of this whole season are going to look like. And I don't mean to say like, here's the silver lining of an 11-point loss. I do think I came away from this game thinking like, yeah, the Blazers are going to have a bunch of rocky nights this year. But if they take an approach that is measured and they continue to take steps with saying, here's what we need to work on and how we're going to work on it, then you'll get to be able, the viewing public, will get to appreciate their growth. It's just going to take patience. And today, I think Billups helped me see the path to patience, see how he's approaching it and how patience is a must. Okay, that is going to do it for today's show. Come back next week. We'll do 5 more of these. How about that? Sound good? I appreciate you listening. Tell your friends about the show. I'll talk to you soon.